literally showed me a picture for an instant of the last time the camera was on. Very weird. Can you move over a little bit? And we're about 12 minutes till. It pops up. Hey, how's it going?
It's going.
Okay, that. Next up.
So the
Yes,
numbers,
numbers. What'd you think of that?
I found it very therapeutic, to be honest.
Sometimes there is that in monotony, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because for my old job, I used to have to put in like our victims' information
Mm-hmm.
and whether like their chart number and all the stuff that went in it. Everyone hated it. I'm like, I'll do it because it was just, I don't know, it's something about just focusing on that and zoning out from all the other stuff.
Yeah, it definitely, it does that. It gives you something to kind of focus on. It is. I wouldn't say it's a mindless task because it's not. It's just more structured, right?
Yeah,
Like I don't have to stop and think like, what the hell is this thing trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Let's just move things.
I was
over.
shocked by some of them though, the numbers.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Oklahoma County, or was it Oklahoma
There's
State?
some I didn't even, I've never even heard of.
20,000 larcenies. It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that's where the state's crime is.
And then there was some, I'm like, dang, there ain't nothing going on in this town.
Mhm. Yeah, and so there's a few reasons why I had you guys do that. And so if you like that, you're gonna love what I have to show you because I'm gonna show you how to use it.
Mhm.
Because that means you've already been doing this. So, and I was curious about that because I know there's gonna be some of you who had. to
I
do
had done
stuff
it in a
like that.
while.
Yeah, but the next step, it'll go in just, it'll be really quick. And we would see like what we do, right, is not super difficult. There's a lot of like, I gotta read like 6 textbooks to get to where it's like, okay, I understand what the processes are behind like the
Mhm.
stats stuff sometimes. It's like, yeah. Now the computer does it for me, right?
Mhm.
So long as I know what the parameters are for that, it's really, really easy to do. And with this kind of stuff, it's literally like click and go and you can start seeing what things really.
Well, I thought it was gonna take me longer than it did, but I had both my laptops. So
Mhm.
it just like
Yeah,
went pretty quick.
yeah, I think it was. Because I think this is the only class here, where I'm trying it this way. And I think someone in here emailed me, is like, so we split this up about around people, so each person does a section. It's like, no, it's not about the data. I've got the data. What it is, it's, you know, you fill out this form. Okay, now that we've got it in this form, I'm gonna show you what that structure does. And I'll show you how to very quickly take a couple of programs and you can start pulling out, okay, here's what all that stuff is telling you that you won't see, right? There is a really, really, really bad quote from one Joseph Stalin. One death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. And what he's getting at there is he's one of the mass killers of all people. That's horrible. But in those numbers, there's just too much information there for you to really see what's going on. Like you can get a kind of a feel for it by
Mhm.
looking with it, but it's like, okay, now when we actually dive into it, what do we see? Is it what you felt kind of as you were doing it? It's like some it's yes, some it's no. And then, okay, here's the other stuff you can't see from it. That's just right there in front. And so we'll play with that. We'll probably go back to class doing that. Maybe. It just depends on how quickly we get through chapters 2 and 3. I did notes for both of those. We'll see what kind of ideas you guys are kicking around. And we'll start playing. Yeah.
Oh, that was so good reading too.
I got an email earlier that said someone was popping up in the class, but they haven't popped up yet again. So we'll see if they do.
Yeah, I didn't make it to 3.
My turnout for my undergraduate criminology Crim 3 course theory was a little bit lower today. I don't know if it was the nice weather or if they're getting burnt out from talking about theory.
It's week 4.
Yeah.
It's right around that time.
Yeah. it could
I
be.
did get burnt out when I took it.
Never took criminology.
Yeah, well, it's,
I took crime theory instead.
yeah, that's better. Cause the way you're learning, it's a little bit different. You're gonna learn you're gonna learn the tree of it, like the history, right?
Yes, it
You'll get
was,
that some in the books that they have where they'll break it out, it's like, okay, here's this theory, it's tied into this theory kind of thing. It's different if I'm, okay, here's that original piece, you go read that.
I did that.
Yeah.
Do you have a
and then-
book for the class?
Well, I've got a whole bunch of books for that class.
Yeah,
Here's,
see, I'm glad I've already taken it. I think.
yeah, so here's what I'm doing. And,
God, mine sucked. It was my first online course. It was also my first 8-week course. It was also my first grad course. So
Dr. Edwards?
I took Dr. Proctor.
Edwards.
I liked Edwards, but it was not, it was still,
It was
her classes were a lot as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I think we covered the entire book and she said we wouldn't.
Yes,
Yeah, the book was like this thick.
yes. I don't know how it was for you, but like it had that, huge book. It was paperback too, so it was really hard to
Yep.
make notes and stuff, but it was the old like original works of
Mhm.
each theory. And I'm like, this was
Yeah.
written in ye old like Middle
Yes,
English.
I had to go and like translate it. And I'm
Yes.
like, what does this mean? I don't understand this word.
And it was like write a 4-page essay
Mhm.
over 2-page,
Yep.
like I was like,
Yep.
I
Oh, I
can't even,
love
I couldn't even read it. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
I need to go
I
back
still
and see
have-
what she did.
I still have all of my work for that class.
That's.
I even have the book.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh,
So, as I'm
Exactly.
going, I'm totally building stuff. The one that, the speak theory.
I actually think I have all her notes in her syllabus if you cannot find it
dude, and they
for
were,
that class.
Yeah, I'll make that a little bit smaller so you guys can see that. For those of you, well, no one's online, so I won't worry about it. They were watching that, back, we're waiting for people to roll in, we've got 5 minutes. Up here, you may recognize some of these names, you may, hopefully you recognize all of them, as they're kind of small right now. But, if you look here, this is a whole bunch of the original pieces that you'll have for theory, so like, Lombroso.
Mhm.
that one sucked. That was the
Yeah.
worst one.
Yeah, you got that one, you got Hershey,
It was like the first one I had to do too.
Durkheim, rational choice theory.
Yeah.
That one's learning. This one is, that's gangs, that's also. Both of those will be, deviance kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Conflict and radical, that one's kind of interesting. Outsiders, that's. Should remember that one off the top of my head. But basically what they fit into is you fit into.
Pretty sure we cited Becker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are things that like these are the seminal pieces. Everyone who's in this field at some point needs to read every single one of these. And if those in theory right now, like what I'm doing with them is, what I'll give them is this. That was this one. Learning modules, week 1 and 2, classical theory. It's 9, 3, 4. Yeah, 3, 4 is up. I didn't label it though. That irritates me. I need to build the rest of that. Starts out Beccaria. That builds out into rational choice and deterrence theory, right? There are huge gaps here. You got a couple hundred years, right? And then you still have like, what, 40 between, maybe 30 between here and where we're at today.
The craziest thing about that 40-year gap is there's so much that has come out of that, which I'm very thankful for because it's written in something that I can understand.
Yeah, and so that's one, this is more the, like, that's gonna be heavily crime prevention stuff, because all that's gonna be the theories that they talk about here in chapter 1 and chapter 2. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about some of that stuff. And there's more I will put out there for you guys, I just haven't done it yet. Part of it's I'm gonna try to figure out how much you guys are getting to be able to get time to actually sit down and read
I'm
this
still
stuff.
going through the first.
Okay, so I won't post out anymore. Well, I might actually post out more, but I won't make them look tired or anything like that. Because there's like just in this chapters 2 and 3. Let's see. I need to give you the Branton hymns. You've already gotten that one. Weisberg, a few others too that are going to be. So we'll talk about some of the environmental stuff. We'll talk a little bit first, because that's chapter 3, paradigms and environmental. crime prevention. And then chapter 3 is, that one's basically about England. That one is.
Wait, that was 3?
Yeah, chapter 3, basically what they do is they start talking about politics. And I didn't necessarily say that you had to read that one for this class if we're going by the schedule.
Okay, odd. So that was my chapter 2.
Really?
Yeah. England?
I'll
Yeah.
tell you what,
What book do you have?
I have that book. I have the 3rd edition.
that might be.
Usually they don't change around whole chapters, but
You'd be surprised, okay.
yep,
we'll talk-
yeah, that's not what I had. I had England.
Okay,
I
so,
was like, what is it? What is going on?
I wouldn't worry about that too
It
much, because
was
they'll
a-
cover the same.
It was an odd jump is what it felt like.
So. Oh, wait, it's just you two, that's fine, we'll talk about it, I'll show you some really cool stuff. So. Whenever they make books, there's a reason why I give people original stuff and try to give books sometimes. I do want people to see the original stuff. There's the thought that if you can write the book, you're a little bit more dangerous. There's also the fact that, being that this is largely sociological, it's like, there is some give and take in how we arrange things, right? It is not uncommon for, as we're developing a class, we'll go get a whole bunch of textbooks, and if we have, even if we have a good one that we like, sometimes we won't go in order. It
Mhm.
just depends on what we think is best to introduce first. I'm struggling just, procedures. Got procedures class this semester, and they keep wanting to go out of order, which is fine, because it naturally does that.
Right.
You know, and so, like, I can hit, whether it's this issue, and this issue, like, that one's reasonable suspicion, probable cause, and some other stuff involved with that. It's like, historically, probable cause developed first. Whenever you go into the situation, you're gonna develop reasonable suspicion long before you develop probable cause.
Mhm.
And how all that stuff actually plays out in the real world is different than that thing will do. And so we got decisions on, okay, how do we want to present this to you? Do you want to present it as kind of naturally developed, as it's developed historically, as you learn it, because that's a different thing. That's why they talk about theory. They have to talk about theory first before they can start talking about, okay, this is what we're doing in terms of the research, and here's why it's important. It's just, it's part of it. I think I'll leave it like that, because some people take pride in the fact that they can do that, and it's like, that's,
They're supposed to be able to do that.
yeah, it's like, that should be expected, but also, you had a bunch of people working on this thing to try to get in this order, and there's a reason for that, and sometimes you have to trust it, and sometimes you find out after the fact, it's like, yeah, I don't like this book. This one's actually a pretty good one. It's just they move those things around a lot. So we are officially 1 minute into class. We have Bailey interested online. You have you guys here in person. Excellent. Just getting a little worried when no one was popping up in line, and we only had 2 people. Like, I can still work with that, but
Right.
I'm gonna talk to everybody. Yes. So first things first. Well, today we'll start talking about chapters 2 and 3 in the text. We also need to talk about ideas. I think we're gonna hold off on the ideas part for after we get through the chapters, because what I want you thinking about is there's something in this field that interests you. It's like there's something in this class that interests you. As we're working on the written stuff for this class, we're going to start with ideas, the things that interest you. And what we'll do is it can be as specific or as general as you want. And from there, what we'll do is we will play with it a little bit until you get kind of an idea of, okay, this is what I'm thinking I want a paper on in this class. Right? This kind of general topic that has this crime prevention aspect to it. and we'll roll from there. In terms of things that I asked for you, the data sheet, how'd you guys like that?
I actually thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Not too bad, not too bad.
A little time consuming, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of like, number. What was that number? That kind of thing. Oh, my goodness.
I split screened it,
Mm-hmm.
right, and I was like, okay, northeast, ready, tab 0, tab 0, tab 13, tab 13, tab.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, scroll down,
Yeah.
tab 32, tab 349.
Yes. Okay. And it's something so monotonous, like, I'm gonna show you how. Control. Could be other variables. What you started there was maybe your initial steps into a data set. Right? Some, you played with data before, it's like, okay, you're good. Not, it's like, that's an introduction. Once you finish chapter 2 and chapter 3, I'll show you the different things that are embedded with that, show you how it works, and then I'll show you a couple programs. We actually got lucky. I'll talk about this real quickly, because I want you guys to play with it and see what you get, because I don't know exactly what's going on. How many have ever heard of this website, desktop.nsuok.edu? Okay, good. I think it was Monday, I was showing, it was last week in here, I can't remember. I was showing somebody within the last week this. And if you've used it before, you'll know that it recently had some updates. What this is a remote desktop. You can access anything computer related to a large degree while you're not at your computer. You log in like you're logging into your standard NSU email account, and you look right in that corner, you'll see, oh, look, you got a start button and start button, that kind of thing. So it's quite readily apparent. And for those of you online, I'll go ahead and share this so you can see the screen. I want to share the screen. This is screen 1. Boom. All right. So now you see screen 1. You type in desktop.nsu.edu, nsuk.edu. It'll take you to a place where you log in. When you log in, you will see this. What's nice about this is, yeah, it's a computer. But let's say you need to write a paper and maybe your Microsoft Office is gone now. There's Excel, Microsoft stuff. Get down here. Oh, there's PowerPoint, Word, all that kind of stuff in here, right? What's really nice is that it's got a couple programs you've probably not used too much before. The one that will get the most wide use is actually right here, IBM Statistics. That's SPSS. The next one that you'll play with, ArcGIS. Right? Gotta get through these 2 chapters. I'll show you what those things do a little bit, and I'll show you it's like, it's power. It's one way we can add power. If I leave this like this and I go off screen, what will happen is it'll log me out after a period of time. If you try this, see what kinds of programs it offers to you, because I logged into this website one room over, I think that was Monday, and sweet. And those programs didn't pop up, and those are my favorite programs in this thing. So if you don't have access to those, I would like to know. If you do, great. It's one of those things, I don't really know what's going on the IT side of that. I know they did a bunch of updates, so yeah, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes, but it is a great resource. It'll quickly get you access to programs that you wouldn't normally have unless you're doing stuff like what I do. And that's the goal, so you start doing what it is you need to be doing in the future. Start that today. Great. Keep that up there to keep my mind. chapter 2, chapter 3, criminology's first paradigm. We'll start wide. Tell me about what a paradigm is.
Set of concepts or thoughts.
Okay. Concepts involved, there's some cognitive stuff. Okay. This one, what they're trying to get at a little bit, there's a few elements in here. One's the agreement aspect of it. So a paradigm's, you can, I don't want to say it this way, but kind of giving you a state of the affairs of whatever it is you're dealing with. Like this is the current paradigm within policing. This is the current paradigm within whatever genre you're kind of going into. Basically, whenever you hear that, what they're saying is that there is a sizable number of people who are in agreement about whether it's how something works or what theory is best for what kinds of problems or how we're going to go about analyzing something. Typically, what you see here is you can see it reflected in academic literature by the number and the topics of publications that are published in a year. You'll see that, you know, X number that are in crime prevention. It's like, okay, how many of those are going to follow? They're going to use the exact same kinds of theories. They're going to follow a kind of similar growth pattern. We talk about the history of this field. You won't necessarily see that there are paradigms. It gives you here, it says 1970 is when they first defined the role of a paradigm in the history of science. It's like, that's 50 years ago. That's not very long. Science has been around a little bit longer than that. Right? So, okay, from there, I'll give you the unified consensus about the basics of a field. So with the social sciences, you have a lot of problems with agreement. I don't know what's beeping at me, but we'll run with it. I want to say it gives you a list of theories in this chapter. Okay, consensus, dominance, and persistence. These are the things that they tell you. It's like, okay, here's the stuff you want to look at if you're going to determine if it's paradigm, if it's got, there's been a shift there, or okay, a consensus is the agreement. Dominance is how prominent it is within that field. That's going to be the number of articles coming, or the number of researchers that use that or uphold that or that kind of thing. Persistency. How long does it last? Is it new? Is it old? If it's old, is it so useful that we still use it? That kind of thing. That's time. I want to say I've lectured you guys about time. Did I do that already in here? Yeah, good. I won't talk about that. Okay. So shifts over time, like society, they can be big or small, right? Some things are big, some things are small, some things are big like the atom bomb, some things are very small, as in like, maybe like, a number of things. And, let's see. Here's what mentions it here. Here's where they start talking about the nature of paradigm shifts. So basically what it's saying here is it gives you a couple of examples of how it can shift. A full rejection or maybe a slight revision, right? Full rejection, it gives you the example of Copernicus and heliocentrism. Basically from that one. That's a good one as an example. Before Copernicus, everyone believed the Earth was the center of the universe. You look up at night, you see everything go around. It's very easy to understand that the people there are going to see that and think that way. It's going to take someone else who start to see errors in that system to make it make sense. This isn't methods, so I won't give you that lesson. If you want that lesson, I can. More common is Einstein and Newton, right? Newtonian physics. Right? Very straightforward, consistent, that kind of thing. Einstein, whole different level, right? That's the kind of stuff that we're doing. Knowledge is always being built. This will talk about it, I won't say this one talks about in terms of, as the paradigm shifts, you'll have a number of people who are delving into those specific areas. The types of research we conduct tend to be very, very specific. So that's why we use paradigms to set a number of people to get all of the nuances associated with that issue. The more people get on it, the better you can get through it. Note the impact of a few authors. There will be some names you'll see here multiple times. There'll be some names that have bigger impact than others. Yeah. You should think about it in terms of topics, but we'll get into that and we'll go from there. Okay. So the next section is where I talk about pre-paradigmatic and paradigmatic errors. Make that a little bit smaller so you can see just how many are there. If you're, I'll share, am I still sharing this? Doesn't look like I am. We'll share this because you guys won't see this. Share. All right, pre-paradigmatic criminology. I don't know. These are all the different types of theories that have been identified as, I guess, active within research as of the last decade, meaning there's been more that have developed since then, probably. And yeah, okay. Strain, biological, okay, that's gonna be a whole range of theories. Broken windows, you know what that is. Collective efficacy. Has heard that term before?
I'm sure I have, but I couldn't tell you what it means.
Yeah, okay. These two right here, broken windows and collective efficacy, they're gonna be very, very much related to, if you scroll down, socialist organization. In fact, collective efficacy takes its roots in socialist organization theory. That's something that you'll get in that theory class as you go. It's like, okay, here's all the choices that you have from the stuff that's not directly just specifically crime prevention. The next section is where they start talking about their first paradigm. Really what they're talking about is they're talking about that move into crime prevention. It's its own paradigm kind of thing. What you'll see here is that okay. All of this, all of this, all of this. This and this word right here. Play. What do I mean by that? Okay. As we're looking at these things, we've changed our perspective. We're going to focus on crime events or war. Maybe it's buildings or whatever facet of the theory we want to focus in. This, here, I'll give you a few bullet points here about emerging paradigms. As you're playing with these ideas, you'll see what works. There are relationships between some stuff that just happen naturally, right? That's the general idea. As you're seeing what things are related, you'll figure out, okay, this is the relationship between these factors kind of thing. And, well, as you're doing that, you're going to see that some things are very, very, very consistent, right? Almost like laws of human behavior. Here's where they start outlining some of that stuff, or some of those things. As I'm going through this textbook, I'm a little slow reading through this one, so I haven't gotten through all of it. I'm not quite sure how much I need to get you in terms of detail. If they go into it more later, we'll go into it more. If they don't, come back and we'll talk about these things, right? Each of these is its own, you can say it's its own body of literature. You can say it's building into something big, right? Burglars have similar spatial preferences. in choosing homes they target, including those acting alone and those who burgle in groups. Although distance traveled by city varies by city, the general framework for studying the distance to crime is clearly established and accepted, meaning that you know where you live, I know a little bit about you. It's like I can figure out how far you travel to commit crime, and there's consistency there, right? Because I shifted my perspective now. Here, we'll do this. This is fun. Okay, talked about Copernicus a second ago. Yes.
Mhm.
You've seen heliocentrism, right? You go look at the night sky at night. Right? You stand out here. This is you. You're standing outside. You're looking out. You see all this stuff doing this, right? You look really, really closely for a long enough time, what you'll see is some stuff does this crap. Do you have any idea what that is? So this is the pattern of stuff moving around you in the night sky as you're watching. It's gonna be doing this at large. But hey, this one thing, this light in the sky, it starts out over here. Tomorrow night's at a different location. Right? And as I'm tracking these things, yeah, some of the stuff's moving with me. Some of it's as everything's moving this way, this is actually moving against it. That doesn't make sense. Right? I can point out what was it? I'm trying to remember what the religious scholar was. I can't remember. Yeah, the title of the book was something like The Divine Movement of Heavenly Bodies. They came up with a very, very elaborate scheme to prove the existence of God because of this pattern. This pattern doesn't really exist because what it is we're actually here. The sun is over here. There's stuff over here. And so as we're moving around these things, sometimes we're moving together. Sometimes we're not. Right? If I'm over here, you're over here, you're gonna look like you're moving this way while everything else is moving this way, kind of thing. Roughly. You'll see this pattern. Doesn't quite make sense. I can make it make sense. I can logically and reasonably rationalize it. Maybe I'm missing something in my perspective. That's what I was talking about last time. It's like sometimes we're looking at people, what causes crime, like what causes them to commit crime. That's criminality. Sometimes we're looking at where are these things taking place. That's crime events. Some degree that's crime prevention. Sometimes it's okay. We're looking at facilities because we know that this is a bad thing and we need to do something about it. So let's play to see if we can affect it. It all starts with playing with ideas. You won't know until you start doing it. And as we're doing it, you start seeing consistencies across time and space and places and people. You start ending up with laws. Right? That's the Brantinghams to some degree. If you've read that book, what you know is that people and their environment, those things are bound. You put people in a place, they'll change that environment. And then once that environment is built, how people use it's similar. As you use it, you become familiar with it. As you are familiar with it, on the very borders of where you're familiar, you're also less likely to be recognized. So if I'm gonna do something criminal, I'm gonna go somewhere I got some small measure of familiarity, I'm less likely to get identified. That's gonna be on the edges of where I commonly act, where I commonly am around, my common activity space. And guess what? If we start looking at it that way, similar spatial preferences, right? There is a set bandwidth associated with how far people will travel for what things, right? What kinds of factors that they weigh when they make those decisions matters, right? That would be like saying there's also this. When you look at a map, you will see this in some places. Maybe some will do some weird things like this one kind of arcs off over here. These keep going. There's nothing over here. You know what this is, right?
Grid?
Yeah, it's a street network. Sometimes it's quite literally a grid. That's Chicago. When you're in Chicago, pay attention to the street signs. They'll have numbers below them. That's for the grid network. So you always know where you're going. You never get lost.
Mhm.
Yeah. This right here. Okay. We'll take one block. This one. Okay. You're buying a house. You want it not to be broken into. What kind of house do you buy? Depends on what kinds of things you're worried about, right? If you're breaking and entering kind of thing is your issue, One of the things you might start considering is, where is your house in relation to all others on this block? If I'm on the corners, how easy is it to access my stuff and get out before you get caught? Right? That's one. You live on these corners, that's another thing right there. That's almost like a human behavior type of thing. This is how this thing naturally develops. Or it'd be saying something like, okay, maybe it's this, that could be it. Maybe there's something else. Maybe I need to dive in and get a little bit closer. Maybe it's something like, they've got this in their yard. Big, old privacy fence. Right? They want privacy. You think that'd make it more secure? Maybe it will. People won't know what you have. As soon as I hop that fence, though, no one can see me and I can take my time looking. Right? That's part of this. How will you know which is which? You won't until you dive in. And it could be this, it could be this. Maybe it's not even this. Maybe it's something that instead of it being at this individual level or you're starting to get here close to groups, maybe it's something that when we look at that county, it's not necessarily just that's driving it. It's oh, you got this street network. Well, right through here is a great big ass freeway. And this is only a couple streets off and it starts to move off into maybe a neighborhood that there's a lot of drug use. Right? Oh, now you've gotten something. Now we can take care of some stuff. Now I can have a bigger effect. Right? Okay. Let's see. To a degree, research is playing with ideas and seeing what works. That's this. Okay. Spatial preferences. Multiple studies show that physical barriers affect the journey to burglary. Right? Several studies explore influence of residential history on location choice offenders. Spatial choice methods and principles also apply to street robbery, rioting, theft from vehicles. Right? Vendor preferences apply in diverse cities, ranging from UK to Australia to Canada. Across the world, if you're going to commit certain actions, you have to do the same kinds of things. Cultures may change, behaviors won't, because you're still trying to achieve the same goals. So, it works. It's also one of those things that we'll talk about this in a second. This is one of those things that can be depending on how you do it. Like this is, I don't know if I can say that. Maybe I will. Human branding. That whole process of people move into an environment, they change the environment changes how they move, and that affects crime, that whole cycle. It's like, they'll talk about it in terms of crime pattern theory, and if they do that, if anyone, like, another way of looking at that is this right here. It's that process of aggregation. You have one person moving around, you got a few crimes, you start adding more people on. You start doing crime events, you're dealing with aggregation. To use that theory, basically what it's saying is this is how people kind of move through the environment. We're going to aggregate up and see what actually works. Boom, theory's covered because questioning aggregation itself, just all of statistics for the last how many thousand years that we've had math. We don't have groups and we can't do anything. That was more for you in case anybody ever questions that again. It says like, yeah, no, it's micro level based on aggregation. I can't aggregate up. We can't do anything in any math, any statistic. There are no groups. There is no aggregation because we can't have groups.
Yeah.
Like, kind of thing. Smart ass, don't get me if you do that. Because, yeah, I don't really get it because and just leave it like that. Let me further. Okay, learning about crime events. Even though study crime events is often eclipsed by the study of criminality. Former still goes way back. Here's where I give you a history a little bit about some spatial analyses, that kind of stuff. You get really, really far into it. Yeah, I've heard about the cholera outbreak. You like John Snow. Okay. So we'll talk about 1800s, that kind of stuff. Probably the ones you'll see quoted the most are Quillette and Gary. Quillette, I mean, yeah. So Basically, what happened is a couple hundred years ago, there were some massive problems and they're trying to figure it out. So what do? Somebody who's got, I don't know, time to play, probably, right? Yeah, if you're talking about doctors in the 1800s, there's some few people that actually have time, right? You have time. You can do this. You can definitely do this, right? So 200 years ago, what they did is, okay, we got this problem. What am I gonna do? Got a map, right? I got a map of this town. It's not a big town. I mean, it is a couple hundred years ago. Okay, cholera outbreak, right? What do? Where on this map are these things popping up? And all I did is look at it and like, oh, I bet I could probably Google it. If I'd have thought about it, we would have had more time. Cholera map, 1800s. How about if I said crime mapping, it probably would. It's new for me. Cholera. Crime map. Crimea. 1800. Now there you go. Right here. The mythology of Jon Snow. Boom. Okay. What's he doing? He's marking these things out, right? Cholera. Okay, so this is back before I really know what's going on. I just know people get sick. You're likely to be bled or something like that. Who knows? Here's what he did. We'll start mapping these things out. When you start looking at it, what do I see? What he saw was, ooh, if I zoom out a little bit on this city, all of these cholera things are coming from the same water source. And its color turns out to be a waterborne thing, which I don't know if they knew that back then. I mean, germs, that's microbiology. When did that stuff come in? Not long ago, right? That's how they did it back then. A little bit of time, a little bit of play, and a little bit of thought. Who knows how many lives he saved, right? Because those are real deaths, right? Okay. Most interesting thing. There are a lot of elements that are going to be similar across things, whether you're talking the mapping stuff, whether you're talking any of those theories you just saw, any of that stuff. Like for crime theory as a grad for undergrad, it's kind of the same thing. If I said a type of theory, can you give me a one sentence kind of explanation of what it is? That's what most people do. When you start doing it, you'll get a little bit more into it. You'll have a real strong knowledge of the theories that you're using. And that's generally what you'll find whenever you go out there with people who are doing this stuff regularly. It's like they got an idea of what these other theories are. Look, they can talk to you for hours on it if you want to. Really what they do is I deal with my theory because that's the one I like to play with. They'll expand as other people want to because they like to play with ideas. We'll start doing that because you start doing that, you'll be these kinds of people. I want from all of you. Okay? It's like music. You guys listen to music? You guys ever study music? No? Okay. Interesting thing about it. It's about the spaces between. It's not about the actual notes that you have there. It's about its relationship with the other notes you're using in your progression. This is the same thing. Why, if you talk about musics, they won't tell you E, A, B or the chords, they'll go 1, 4, 5 for your rock and roll. Okay. The big change identified in this section is that book is that we started to change perspective. As you play with perspectives, you see different things. That's more information. It's always a benefit. Here, that was 1800s. Not long after that, you got Shaw and McKay. That's the 40s. Here they'll talk about Park et al. Park et al. That would be the Chicago school. Probably the one that's cited more often is called Parks and Burgess. They did the same thing. Parks and Burgess, what they saw was Chicago. If I map out the crime, it starts off at the Pier area, the industrial district. That's where it's heaviest, and it gets lighter up from there in bands, like quite literally bands. They called it their concentric zonal hypothesis. Like, okay, here's where the crime's worst. This band's a little worse, or not a little worse, a little bit better. This band's a little bit better. Farther out you get, the safer it gets. From there, they studied it for several decades. Okay, this is the pattern, and at one point, now if we add in all these years, we can say, this pattern's stable. And it doesn't really matter what race is in there or what ethnic group. It's like, okay, that's really cool. That's the same kind of thing that we're talking about up here when we start talking about. Okay, as you start really delving in, can we identify those rules? Here. Let's see. Something kind of interesting. The section about Shaw and McKay. I'm gonna zoom in on that because you guys need to read that close. Shaw and McKay mapped out crime in 77 counties, or community areas in Chicago. Their units averaged over 40,000 residents each. Okay, the size and number. More specific details about crime events came some years later, so they built it as they went. That sounds kind of familiar. Although, might have liked to enter modern era specific local analysis, that's more mapping, that's further on. Did not have detailed data or computers. They did this by hand. By hand. Right? We are not there. What would have taken them years will take you seconds. Not even seconds. Right? When you get to the really advanced stuff, what will happen is your computer will shut down and it will run that thing and it can't do anything else. You're gonna walk away for a few hours. It doesn't do that quite as much as it used to whenever I started. Right? By the time you get to be where you're my age, it probably won't have any lag at all. Be surprised if it doesn't bring your damn mind. But that right there, that's the task that they undertook. That's a big task. It doesn't start out that way. It starts out with a small task. Spreadsheet, right? From there you build out. What other variables do you need? And as you build it out, you start doing more and more with it. And then the information you get from it, you can change perspectives, give different perspectives on it, and you can start identifying how those rules apply here. Kind of interesting, coincidentally. 77. How many counties are in Oklahoma?
Not really sure.
77, right? That'd be something to play with at some point. I've not figured out what to do. I just like that. I thought that was kind of interesting. 7 is a good number. Okay. So, as society changes, certain principles don't. They work, they don't have to change, right? Here. Yeah. The new perspective stuff, paradigm stuff. Yeah, that's one way to start making that happen. Just research over time that will start doing that, which is how it will. Okay. Another section in here where it talks about Sarah Boggs, 1965. She's playing with math rather than playing with the space. Play with the math a little bit. 65. Crime rates with alternative denominators to represent exposure, right? When they start doing crime rates, they do it for every 100,000 person kind of thing. You don't have to give it that way. Sometimes it's better not to. Probably this one, I don't like this topic. I'll give it to you because it's a good way to identify why you might want to play with those numbers. It's off topic. Abortion kind of stuff. These are things that they'll give you rates. They don't give you the numbers that you want because they don't want you to know how much it is. Right? They'll give you, okay, this is the rate for the number of those for every live birth. Right? It's not, it means nothing. If you gave, this is the number of those for every known birth, then you'd see a real percentage that actually makes sense because it'll say, okay, for this one, if I give you the number of abortions per live birth, it's gonna be whatever that number is. It doesn't mean anything really. The number I'd said before, where I give you the number out of the total, that's the percentage of people who chose not to carry a child to term. That matters. That means something. That other one. Okay, I guess if I look at that number, I can see, okay, so there's a point whatever number of abortions for every one birth. Or if they do it for every 100,000 or 10,000 or however they do it, it's like that number means nothing. The one I gave you does. The reason I did that is so you don't see how bad it is. You can play with that. That's part of this, right? So long as you're aiming towards what's good and you're trying to help the thing out, like that's not a bad thing. Trying to hide information for any reason, it's like, that's usually not good.
And you see it a lot more than you'd really like, or I guess you don't see it as much as you really like, but
Yeah. You see evidence of it, though.
everywhere.
Yeah.
For even things that like don't even matter.
Mhm. It's insane. That's part of this. It's sort of like whenever I told you, it's like, I want you to read the original stuff. Why? Get all the filters out. Those rose-colored glasses, the often say stuff like that. Yeah, that's what it is people who are presenting this information. They'll paint it a certain way. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's better. Just get that out of the way, go back to the original thing and see what works. Okay, so they talk about that. These extensions of knowledge help some criminal shift studies of crime rather than criminals alone. So that's where it starts talking a little about that. The interesting part was that she started playing with that because that's playing with the math. We'll leave that something. Okay, study coming through crime events emerges. Yeah. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Normal stuff. Discussion of naming. Here's what I want to talk about. Environmental criminology and crime analysis. I'll be teaching you some crime analysis in here. Enough to make you to where you can play with it, that kind of thing. This is a group called ECHA. This is a private group. If you publish in this field sufficiently, of good caliber, they will invite you. Yeah, I keep telling you guys, all this stuff is at will. Everything is. When you get to this kind of, when you're playing with ideas, the more you want to play, the more you do. People will reach out to you. Yeah, a little bit about that. Yeah, plans. Specifically show you how to dig and tree. Okay, so I need to talk a little bit about that. Because here's where they start talking about specificity, generating, those types of things. Yeah. Should we name this common approach to risk messing? Something I want to point here. Best way to establish this paradigm exists, not to make proclamations. Do not recommend calling it paradigm at all. I like that. I'll leave that there. Suggest referring to an umbrella term, crime events approach. Okay. This whole process is one that is this. Okay. Topic. Findings. Right? You have a big topic that's more than just you. But you are going to take this and you're going to come out and you're going to find multiple findings on things. You're going to generate new knowledge for each of those things. For everything that you study, everything that you look at, each of those factors is going to have something going on with it. And so you end up with this thing where you start here, you do some stuff, building off of this. The next thing you know is you generate a bunch of stuff. That's a tree upside down. Right? That's you getting involved in the conversation, the knowledge generation, that whole process. I said before it was a conversation. It kind of is. Like you are literally going to be citing people and you come up with this. Someone else is going to be looking at this. They're going to see you. They might grab this. You are now a part of that conversation. Welcome to the human race. You are now part of this. This is what it means to really get involved, right? Okay. Next, any questions on that? So that wraps up that chat. They're good? Okay. I have half a mind to go back and talk about the thing that skipped over, but I'm not going to. Okay, here's what I go. I don't care about that right now. You guys see any of these things down here where they're making any of these citations? You see any that are important to you? Seem interesting. Always a good place to look at, right? Because I got quite a bit of stuff from these people, this person, definitely those. Him too. Quite a few others. Okay. Community safety and crime prevention. I won't spend a whole lot on this in terms of time because there's other stuff on the show, but I will talk about this. Okay. First off, looks like I put a note. Ooh, we got a chat. That didn't give me a ding. Is your camera off? Because I don't see you on the board. I'm moving around. Does the board come up whenever you guys are looking at that? I don't know. If it does, let me know. If not, probably voiceover is just fine right now. Okay. Development of new idea related policy. UOC fits. Okay, that's what that is. Okay. So this section, they start talking about policy. Policy is a very important aspect of this. Policies and procedures, those are one of the big ways we start actually, addressing what you're finding, you start making policy recommendations. So that's kind of what this section is geared towards. Here they focus very, very heavily on the United Kingdom. There is a lot of good stuff going on there. In terms of here, what I said, yeah, England is a leader. They definitely are. Also a potential police state, right? You guys ever watch any of those? I think they had a police show from England, right? Where it was, the whole concept of the show was they're watching all the cameras that are live in London and they're sending people out to go deal with crimes before they're crimes, right? I see a drunk guy who's standing in the corner of such and such. It's like, that might be a situation. Send a couple officers over there. Right? Very, very good way to address issues. Very good way to keep things at low levels before they build. However, you do enter that police state kind of thing, right? And that's kind of a big issue there. That would be like me asking you if you saw in the last 6 months viral videos of a guy being arrested in his own yard for insulting an officer. This is him being forcibly thrown in handcuffs, thrown down. It's an old guy, right? Or a guy who made a joke in England and 6 officers show up and arrest him because he told, was it the Queen or something like that, to pick off or something like that. It was an insult, right? Or was he the guy who bare-assed drove down the street, something like that, like literally drove down the street with his butt hanging out kind of thing. Yeah, it's like, what you'll get there versus what you get here is wildly different. They have a much more strict environment. You do enter that police state kind of thing. Here, you get in some trouble for it, but you're probably not going to get, thrown on the ground and handcuffed kind of thing. It will be a ticket. Yeah. All right. So probably should talk about safety. Okay, that's the other thing. We got a lot to learn here, so I won't focus too heavily on this. We talked about fear already. Anytime you see that word safety, sometimes what they're keying into is fear. Kind of an overlap again with methods and this topic. If I said fear as a concept versus safety as a concept, what are the differences between those two things?
Well, I guess fear can be really just encompassing in safety. I mean,
I really don't know. I mean, I'm quite serious. I don't know. In terms of things that I've seen, typically what it is this is negative, this is positive. What I mean by that, that's kind of a methods thing, is I'm going to ask you if you're safe or afraid, right? And I'm going to rank that from 1 to 5. If I said afraid, as this number gets bigger, it's getting worse. If I said safe, as this number is getting bigger, it's getting better. Okay, why am I talking about that? Perception, perspectives, that's a perception issue itself. Now we can also, just with a simple button click, positive, negative, you can flip it. Okay, do I want to talk about it in terms of I want to make people know that I'm talking about fear? Want to feel good, talk about safety. Right, starts there. Here's a big area. If you're interested, if you're, let me know. I got some data on that. Yeah, so this section is gonna talk about that. It's gonna talk about fear, it's gonna talk about a lot of the stuff that they're doing here. Probably the biggest thing that it talks about in this section is politics. Because you're gonna see in there that politics are a huge factor. Let's see. 1970s, 1980s, when I started talking. Crime prevention, new safety, broken windows, that's one. Okay. So. That. You can talk about paradigms, you can talk about errors, you can talk about how things have developed in this field over time. Here they start talking a little bit about the emergence of this in, I should say, Britain. But we'll talk about it in terms of theories and how things worked. So broken windows, you know what that is, yes?
Yes.
What is it?
What's the tendency for more crimes to occur when an area looks as if it has been the victim or the holder of criminal activity?
Yeah, so it's, so in the 70s, 60s, 70s, into the 80s, really the 70s is when most of it kicked on. A lot of changes in policing, you're talking right after the civil rights era. Broken windows is gonna follow that. You'll see broken windows comes out of this era, community policing, all that kind of stuff. Broken windows, exactly, right? You're looking for, if you're talking about broken windows, the original study that they did, they took cars into different areas of towns to see how long it would take for people to vandalize them. What they found was no one touched them. So you broke out a window. Then everyone's like, okay, it's cool to tear this up, no one's caring, no one's watching, no one cares. That's one of those principles, if you show that you care, it's what you won't deal with some of those crimes. It's also about the time we start entering into a lot of rehabilitation type of stuff where we're trying to rehabilitate offenders in terms of the overall field in this time frame. That kind of led us to the what's sometimes referred to as the nothing works era. Basically, what you see in this time frame, like the 80s and 90s, is things just kept getting worse. They weren't getting any better. We were trying a whole bunch of stuff and nothing seemed to work. A big part of that was measuring stuff. That's methods. We can talk about that. You're measuring the wrong things. You're still looking at crime rates while you're looking at rehab stuff. It's like, now you need quality of life, that kind of stuff. So that led to the nothing works era. And then, yeah. We start getting into some of this stuff. My notes here a second, because I kind of lost my thought. Broken windows, community places were seen as failures by the 90s since there was no effect. They did identify practices as having profound effect on community lives and visual attitudes, and sometimes those will have an effect on crime. That's not direct though. From there, do I want to talk about the curses and unintended effects? Not really. This will go into that. Yeah, I guess I kind of do. Okay, so as they're talking about this, what they'll talk about is, you know, their safety agenda, what they're producing, that kind of stuff. How it affects victimization, how it affects life. What I want to talk to you a bit about is the recursive and unintended effects. Some way, that's an unintended effect of not having the right measures. Right? While they're talking about stuff in this chapter, fear element's a heavy element of it. Fear is one that is, it's fun. You have to realize what you're dealing with is a lot to it. All the things it does. One of the most interesting things is does it sensitize you or does it desensitize you? Fear. And what I mean by that is the actions we take to address it, does that make it better or worse? Right? Okay. Say we're on campus. Not this campus. We'll say that we're a singular building for this campus. It's the only building that exists. And we're over in Muskogee. Right? Any differences there for how you feel walking around the building at night outside? Start feeling a little bit different about that? Okay. Let's say,
Yeah, I really wouldn't wanna do that.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, one, there's no officer over there at
Mhm.
night. Two, if you look at the area over there in the Muskogee campus, it's not nearly as good because there's a freeway right next to it.
yeah. Okay, let's say, since we see that, we're gonna do something about that. We're gonna put up a wall. That almost sounds good. Sometimes I love this field. Sometimes it's also, I hate this field because as soon as I start talking about stuff that's cool, it's like, what is that? I'm watching this on political now, if I'm talking with normal people.
No, cause I used this as an example literally today for my senior seminar class.
Nice. Well, here's the part that, you know, how is a big part of this. When we say how, it's like, okay, how are we building this wall? What kinds of messages are we sending when we build this wall? Is this you know, something that's gonna look beautiful, right? This is gonna be wrought iron type of fencing. It's gonna have this nice design. There's gonna be this type of leaf design in it. It's like, okay, that's cool, right? No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna put maybe, we're gonna put either barbed or razor wire at the top, and then now every time I see that, I'm gonna think, what the hell's going on there? Do we need that?
Mhm.
Right? I'm now a whole lot worse over here than I was before you did anything at all. Right? That's not necessarily good. That's really not good. Sometimes it's not necessarily bad. Really not good though, right? It'd be the same thing with like the Guardian thing, right? One police officer watching a parking lot at night is okay. 6 is not, right? You see 6 out there, you're gonna stop, you're gonna turn around and be like, oh, I don't know if I'm walking in my car right now. Right? I'm gonna hang back and make sure nothing's going sideways. I'm almost gonna tell you some stories. That happens sometimes. Yeah, because what you start sending there, because police officers, is it something like there is an immediate danger? Or is it that we? We're right back in that police state. Right? Let's say, you would probably know this off the top of your head. Let's see. How many officers are there for here on campus? Do you know that?
Full-time or part-time?
We'll go full time. Because I know that number will be smaller.
I believe there's 7.
7, okay? So you have 7.
And that counts the night officers.
Yeah, that's hard, right? Because you're splitting across 7 days, 3 shifts probably.
And we're down one because they're on FMLA, so
Yeah. Good golly.
another one's quitting, so.
Moving to Florida, I would too.
Faster.
I know, right?
That's what I call it. You're abandoning this faster. No, okay, so that's not very many people. It's enough to keep everything covered. Turn this into 70. Right, where you can't go 5 minutes without running into an officer. Your image changes, right? Around here, this would be really, really, really bad. Anyone who sees this is gonna get scared, turn around and leave. Some places that's not the case. Yeah. Well, university, I can't remember how many officers they have. It's that, I'd have to stop and look. But massive amount of police force because of where they're located. They're in the middle of a big city, so literally when you're on their campus, you can't tell when you're on their campus, you're in the surrounding neighborhoods. And so what they do is they send police officers on bicycles that you'll see like every 15 minutes, right? Now, depending on how they look, what they're doing, it's like that can be really bad or really good. Most time it's not good. The politics stuff, we need to talk a little bit about that. It is a part of it. The biggest thing with it is objectivity. That's gonna be the hardest thing too, because anytime you're dealing with politics, it's not objective. It just isn't. Right? Everyone's gonna have an opinion on what should be done, that kind of stuff. There'll be the personal politics that individuals hold for everyone who's involved. Best thing is just set all that stuff aside, objectivity, right? Pulling some examples out of both these and other examples. Well. Okay. Okay. Activity. Activity is key. Anytime you do research in general, it's an important issue. Here's where they're kind of hitting that similar point. I'll say it this way. If I were doing research on tobacco and my research is funded through tobacco, there's some questions to be had there about the analyses and the results, right? Okay. That is an always ever-present issue here because one, you're gonna have this that you're trying to get. Two, you're gonna have issues with data access. Some stuff's easily available, some stuff's not. So that's gonna be something that, you know, sometimes it's a block behind people. Sometimes those people are political, right? It's this. Inflation, say, talk about policy again here, because you start in a similar venue, similar area. Legislation, practices, procedures, all of those things are going to be things that affect the data that's generated, right? Okay. Here, you're looking at crime. Who captures that crime information? It's police, right? How do you get access to it? Is it freely available or not? That's the first question. It's freely available, then it's a little bit easier, but you also have all the things associated with data. Here, what things are they required to report, that kind of stuff. Here. Outcome. Your outcomes will affect this. Right? It's always going to affect money. It's always going to affect politics because politics runs on money. Best part is not only will it do this, but if there's any, visible stuff aside from the cost, if it's good, benefits whoever was in power. It's bad, doesn't, right? And sometimes people work that for their benefit. Like, I would never recommend that. Go here, objectivity. All right. So most, if not all of your resources will have a social aspect to them. One, you need to be able to show that you're objective. You need to be able to approach people, be able to get the information you need. You need to be able to come and talk to the people who might be gatekeepers for the processes that you want to affect to be able to bring about good change, that kind of stuff. This whole chapter is a long chapter where it talks about a whole bunch of issues that happen that deal with that whole process, those processes. All right. Safety, tensions. Yeah. Talk about that, democracy, accountability, and liberal corporatism. There's a section in here where I need to talk about something else real quick, and then we'll move on. Thought I had it highlighted. Apparently I don't. All right, we'll do it this way then. Word search, because I know it's in. Yeah, was it real? Yeah, there it is. That's actually pretty early. Yeah. I think I've talked about that one before. I'll talk about it a little bit more. Left realist perspective. You see that phrase right there? What is that saying? The realist perspective. Okay. We'll talk about that for a quick second, and then I think we'll probably just wrap up with this chapter. I'll show you some cool stuff. Okay. That's very, very useful. That's questioning the system, right? Marxism is where they're pulling that from. You'll see three names, radical, critical, realist, right? That's that same thing I was talking to you about when you were writing stuff. They're not doing it themselves. Over here, what it is they're just echoing what's going on in the field. It's a shift. It used to be you were a radical because that's what Marxism is. It was radical to our society. Critical because it questions the roles that people have, the groups that people have, groups that exist in society and their roles. Now they're using it as the word realist. Be careful with that because people see that word and they think different things. Like talking about racism, say institutional, systemic versus behavioral, talking wildly different things, and they are not the same. This one, but be careful with that. There's some good there. There's some bad there too. Let's see. I think that's probably good enough for that one. Now the cool stuff. Okay. What's back here? I almost want to be like black pop work. It's not home. Hey, what's the clean? This right here. So this is desktop.nsuok.edu. If you've never used this before, you've never seen it. You type that into a web browser, you'll sign in like you sign into your normal university account. What it will do is it will bring you to this where you see, hey, it looks like I'm staring at a computer screen inside my web browser. It's very, very nice because what it does is it'll give you access to all the tools you have with the computer, wherever you have an internet connection. So if you're like on a tablet or something like that, and you need to do something a little bit more serious, you should be able to do it here. I don't know how well it works with phones. So if you guys get the opportunity, you got those kind of tools, play with them. Usually whenever I'm working, I'm sitting on a computer. I don't play that way either. This. So last time we did, give you guys that spreadsheet, marching orders. I'll show you what it does. Talked to you a little bit at the beginning of class. If you remember, some of you liked it, some of you probably did. I need to go. We'll do it this way. Show you some stuff that's a little bit more difficult. So there's the assignment. Stop sharing the screen for a second. Actually, no, it won't. What I will do is I'll download the one that's already completed. Green mail, we're gonna go right here. Say, yeah, of course it's not. That's gotta be it. This. Those for now. Okay, next up, I'm gonna go here. There it is. Yeah, it's working. Come on. Yeah, show me my search options. There we go. Okay, from me to me as an attachment. So it has the words OSPI. That's going to get pages for that. That's the one's completed. Download.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do they have other years publicly available or no?
Other what now?
Other years? This is just for 2020.
This one's just for 2020. I don't know. I've not been able to find it online, easily accessible.
What happened?
Um,
Chaos.
So, thinking about project stuff, what I'm probably gonna do is I'm probably gonna aggregate down, so we're doing a single model for it. So that's a common practice with the research stuff. That's one that you'd only pick up as you're doing it. And that's why I'm gonna be teaching you guys some of that stuff. This right here is for a single year, yes, for 2020. It is a common practice that whenever you're dealing with any set like this, when you start looking at your control variables, those are gonna be your race, age, sex, income, all those types of control variables that we use all the time. There is a place where you go to get that information, where there are parties that already officially collect that, and it is accessible where you can use it. You just have to know how to, one, find it, and two, turn it into something that looks a little bit like this, because then you can add them together. That would be, talk about it briefly in methods you might not have heard of it anywhere else. The American Community Survey. Right? That's one place you can get it. Another place that would be more common for you to recognize would be this one right here, census. These two things are related. Right? Census is done every 10 years. The American Community Survey does 1 year and 5 year estimates. So they'll go in between here to give you some of the gas stuff. A very common practice in research is whenever they start pulling in these controls, they'll just grab this data and use whatever it was for that 10-year period and say that that 10-year period, that data represents that entire 10-year period. So it's like, you don't worry about it. Why? Because we're just trying to figure out, we haven't gotten that specific yet. We're not anywhere near that. Like, it's just, okay, what is actually going on? And then as we get in, we find that, you know, this one's pretty easy to use. This one's a little harder to use. But if you're trying to get to where you're like actually dealing with people, there's a lot of work involved. So most people do this kind of stuff and it gets going pretty quick. But with this spreadsheet, you want to add these things and you start getting controls. Like maybe one of these would start to be your dependent variable, maybe not. There are lots of options as you're going through this, but here's what it does. Okay, enable editing. I'm gonna get rid of this thing. I liked having it in there while I was filling it out, but not afterwards. Okay. Save. I'm gonna save this as. Where are my downloads? Instead of from Excel workbook, we're gonna save it as a CSV file. Okay. More skills. Still sharing the screen. Good. You guys have used this thing before, right? Usually you probably use it for turning something like this or a Word document into PDF. Save it as PDF, now it changes it. All of these different types do different things. It's different ways it stores the data. CSV file, you'll see that there's actually a few different CSVs. They save them a little bit different. This one is the one you want to use, where it's just CSV. It says comma delimited. CSV is comma delimited, save, something or other. But what they're saying is if you actually look at it like it were a text document, you won't see any of those cells there. What you'll see is just number, comma, number, comma, number, comma, and it'll just be a single line. The program itself reads it. Sometimes programs have to have the data in that way to be able to read it. As we're working on this, I'll show you how, and I'll show you exactly what I mean as you do it. And you'll see it's wonky, right? It's not fun. It's a little clunky because it's not user-friendly, because it's made for people like us, those who want to play, right? So be ready to play. Say this one is a CSV. Okay. Be right here. You could do TXT if you wanted to. I'm sure it's got text, tab delimited. But this one's usually one that runs the best. Save that there. Okay. So what we'll do from here is we'll actually send myself an email. Because it's a virtual desktop, there's no way to stick a USB drive into that thing, so you gotta do it all through the internet.
Yeah,
That's the nasty part too.
super annoying.
Yeah. Just say, okay, we're gonna take this email, we're gonna go into our downloads. Give me a different view of that. All right. I'm gonna come down here to. There we go, OSB file. Open up the type. Comma separated values, that's what it is, comma separate. Comma delimited means the same thing, separate. We'll take that one. Open. Same. Okay, over here. Now we're in the remote desktop. We're gonna go down here. Actually, let's do it. Say Firefox, just because it's the only one with the shortcut that I can see. Okay. We'll log in. It's me. Whole bunch of expletives. No, don't, not now. Okay. Free email. Yes, you're gonna make me sign in again. Now it may ask, yes, because it doesn't know where the hell this thing's at,
Mhm.
right? This thing doesn't exist. Yes, send me a text message. A text message. The clock is ticking. I only got 50 seconds left, guys. All right, here it is. 1874442. 9. And there it goes. Boom. Download. Whoa. Okay. Same thing you guys have. Okay. When you look at this, that column. Okay, that's gonna be heavier units, that kind of thing. Here are the things you're actually looking at, the different counties. Your units of analysis. Your variables will be across the top. You'll see that top row, murder, rape, robbery, those are your variables. Every data sheet I've ever seen runs this way. It'll want your variables to run in the columns, your units, the things you actually care about, to run in your rows. If you ever have a problem with that, there are ways to flip that very, very quickly, right? Show some place there because it's useful. Whenever you have a CSV file, it won't save bold, it won't save italics, it won't save highlighting. If you add in a second sheet here, it won't even save that because it is so basic in terms of how it saves it. That's why the programs can read it. So you have a little bit of issues if you start playing like, I want to bolt these things so I can see them. It's like, no, it won't work. It's just data. But you could do things like this. Like, let's say, I'm no longer interested in counties. I want something else. And this is, I can grab a whole row and quite literally, boom. Oh, let's say I don't want to do that. I want to go text to columns right here. And you can separate those out. You can flip that. You can delimit here. Text to columns is delimited. It was what is this one? Next. Yeah, no, that one's the separating out. But I know what it was. It was transposed. Right here. Here's support now. Yeah, been a while since I've done that one. But you can literally take that, you can flip it, and it's literally a few button clicks. I want to say it was this one, but that's gonna irritate me. I'd have to play with it a little bit more. I don't want that. That's one thing you can do to play with the data. Kind of irritate me that I didn't see what I wanted to see there. But as you're moving these things, this concatenate. You ever heard of that? Got a couple of you, and one of you has maybe. Okay, what this one does, this combines categories, right? Or breaks them up. You can do either. Okay, so we'll start there. I'll show you that one a little bit because it will come up sometimes. For this, not so much. Just go down. Right, this is the one that combines. So it's saying I've got all of these data, and instead of it being a whole bunch of separate numbers, if there was something that needed to be together, like I need a category that, good example would be names. So you're dealing with people, you're writing a spreadsheet of people. You've got one column for last name, one column for first name. You need to print out something for them that's got their full name on it. This is a quick way to put that information into a single cell and format it as you like. The text to columns, that's how you delimit it out. So if you got, say those two names are in one cell and you want them separate because you want to sort by first name and last name, you'd separate those things out. Those are more finite skills as you're playing with data. As we're developing the stuff, you come into issues with that, sit down and talk about it, and I'll show you how this stuff works. The fun thing though, is not this. Those are just tools to help you move data faster. Use this as a way to augment your speed and how much information you can go through. The one you want that will tell you what you really can't see. Okay, so I've got this spreadsheet, it's here. It's saved in my virtual desktop under the desktop. That's hilarious. Yes, done. Okay, so that spreadsheet right there. If I leave it like this, it'll have trouble reading it because you have two rows of headers. We'll get rid of that. If you notice the all of the merging of cells and that kind of stuff went away too. All of that stuff goes away when you save this CSV. Delete, save. So it just goes country, county, region, murder, boom. Okay. Boom. All that's here. Before we go to ArcGIS, I'll show you this one. This is to everybody. IBM statistics. Open another file. We're going to tell it. So this was a CSV file. How about you just show me all files? That one. Open. This is what that science data actually looks like. It's that every comma between each of those cells. We can read that way. So I don't need to go and tell it to do anything, right? This does this automatically. Whenever I was in your shoes, I had to do this manually. Yeah, that's not fun. This is almost exactly like it was the text to columns in Excel. So I open that back up where it says Okay, how do you want me to read this? It goes through the similar process. Once you start doing this a little bit, you'll see how that process works. And then most of it's automated in here. So we'll just pop it in there because it will do it automatically. Boom. There's your data. Across the top of your variables. Each of these rows is one of your cases. With that, I can start doing all kinds of statistics. And since each of these are counties, if I do them at large on the whole database, I'm dealing with the entire state, right? So if I want to know, okay, analyze descriptives. We'll go with descriptives rather than frequencies. Frequencies will give you every number, like I said, give me the frequencies for Polonius assault. It'll give me all of those. What I want to do is we're going to say, okay, murder, rape, robbery, Polonius assault. We'll stop right here with these. Okay. I won't go that specific. I'll just say, we'll just start there. Those three. Boom. Options, range, do. Boom. One more values, but truncated. Yes, that's it, reading it. This is telling you to do. Okay. On average. Murder. Little less than 4 murders per county in this state. For 2020. Rape. 30 almost per county. That's efficient.
That's pretty bad.
That's not good. That is not what I would expect. Is it? I don't know. Robbery.
Well, I mean, if people are getting
Yeah.
raped just as much as they're getting robbed, like,
Yeah. Yeah,
oh my
Okay.
gosh.
right here. 3, basically 30s for both of those. Okay, that's the averages. Minimums, 0. Right? Maximum, 90. 675. 923. Right? Okay? Now you got an idea for, okay, how wide is the issue from 0 all the way to 900, right? Most people sit over here. Oh, so let's do it this way. Graphs, chart builder. I don't care. We'll just do a standard little thing here and we'll say, we'll go murder. Okay. Simple bar count with murder. This pack. This would be the number of counties that have 0. 30, not quite 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next one, we'll do a graph for, okay, that's murder. We're gonna get rid of murder. We'll drop in rape.
Oh, okay. That one's different.
Yeah. That's 0. 1, 2. No. Is that right? Maybe that's a data error. Maybe that's an errand tree error. That's another thing I can do with this. So I didn't actually make that Excel file. I had someone else do that. That would be fun. So I get to play with that one a little bit. That's my side. I can take your guys' spreadsheets and I can do a compare documents, lay them side by side and it'll show me, okay, I got different numbers in these squares. That's a quick way for me to identify, okay, these numbers are accurate. Those ones I got questions about, I need to go look at those. Now I don't need to do any type of data quality check.
Good idea.
Yeah, right? Multiple things for every step that you do. Before you plan that out, the smoother all this stuff goes. And it goes really fast if you do it right. Yeah. Another way of looking at that is, okay, there might be something going on with that. We'll
Yeah,
also
that one
do-
looks funky.
Yeah, we'll also look at the graphs. Don't, let me click, don't show me that again. rape, robbery. Okay, that
That one
one,
looks,
that one was about
better.
more like we'd expect. Okay. This way. That frequencies thing. Murder, robbery, give me home. I'm over. Okay. So murder. 35 counties had 0, 15 had 1, and then it decreases from there. Rape was all over the place. So I need to look back at that one. Who's had doing this one? They might not have been paying attention. I can quickly go and drop over because I wouldn't expect it to look like that. I don't know. Let me. Let's BI. I think that's link in that email line. Let's double check that. Okay. We'll leave that up for a second. I'll show you what I mean in terms of double checking it. Okay. So in terms of numbers, we do see some weird things going on there. It doesn't follow what you'd expect. Remember I told you about curves and things like that? Did I talk about that in here? I usually talk about them in first classes. Okay. In terms of ideas and patterns, there's a few to be very, very, very aware of, right? For our field, the biggest ones are this. Straight line. You remember this one from methods, if you know, that's the Vikings and X plus B. Really, no, it's this one y equals, we'll say A x1 plus B x2 dot plus E. It's the same thing you learned over here. It's just a straight line. You're using multiple variables plus error, right? Straight line. The other one you need to be aware of, or your quadratics. Doesn't usually get much further beyond that. I mean, you can get a lot farther. Quadratics. It's those, right? Most people are gonna move over here. This is something bad, right? This is something good. This is money. This one's crime. Okay. Next up. That. The next thing you can do. Let's say I'm curious. Crosstabs. What the hell got 675? I can go and look that up. There's a few different ways I can do that. We'll show you it's easy way first. Play with the data first. We'll minimize the results. We'll go over the data. Rape. Sort and descending. Ooh, I don't know. That might be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oklahoma County, Tulsa County, Cleveland, Comanche, right?
Yeah. That's probably
600, 400, 100. Once you get to here, everything's below 30, right? There's some stuff going on there.
I'm gonna call it now. It kind of looks like it is.
Yeah. So when we start talking about patterns, these are some of the broad ones. These are the ones that are quickly and easily accessible to some degree. When I don't know if it's in this spot, I'll talk about it this way then in case it did say it. How safe is this country and how dangerous is it? You'll hear all kinds of crap about, you know, this country's number 3, I think, in terms of, or maybe it's number 1 in terms of Western countries for the most dangerous places in the world. It's like, yes. This rule is at play though. And we, out of all the other countries in the world, have a lot of large city populations across our country that do this, right? If I were to show you a county level assessment of crime for any crime type, you're gonna see the same pattern here. And so you take out the big counties, I take out these 2, I remove over 1,000 rapes out of however many are there. I mean, when you do that kind of stuff, you see what this country really is it's really, really safe for the most part, except for places like that.
Mhm.
When you start seeing that, it's like, okay, now what do we want to delve into? Do we want to delve into the areas with low-level crimes and work on that, or do we want to delve into this?
It does honestly look a little weird.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is kind of interesting, because if you look all the way over at the very end for the total number of
Yeah.
crimes, you can see that some things look kind of out of place, like what is
Yeah,
that,
there's probably
Canadian
some-
County?
Yeah.
Look at that. So it's down kind of near the middle of the page, but
Yeah,
the
right there.
total crimes,
That might be an entry thing too. I don't know.
no, it looks, I
Yeah.
think it looks fine, but if you look at the one right above it.
Mm-hmm.
So it had, so the one above it, McLean had more rapes, but
Yeah.
a fraction of the total
Yeah,
crimes.
this is like dealing with. This stuff goes everywhere and it's not consistent. It's not like science in terms of hard sciences. It's like when you boil water, you boil water. This stuff's all over the place. This is really hard. It is, which is why you go in here and you start playing. And once you start playing, you'll start seeing some stuff. And it's what interests you. Right? This is the first step, guys. This is a big one. You can start playing with this stuff now. Okay. I need to talk about that. I need to talk about this, showing you this. When you start getting into the next step would be when you start looking at, do correlations. You have to be careful with what you're correlating and what kinds of stuff you have. And so it could get more complicated than this, but, you know, let's say you were looking at that and you see, which one was this, Canadian, it was we'll just go with the rapes and robberies kind of thing. Okay. Say. Boom. Go murder, rape, robbery, felonious assault, breaking and larceny. Boom. Okay, we'll see what that does.
We also just rape a lot here in
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Statistics, correlations. If you're not familiar with this methods, but I'll tell you what it is, okay? What it says here is that each of these correlations is significant, right? Not only are they significant, they're really close to one, which means you're talking about a lot of the same things. The problem is we've got to get in there at either with more variables or a higher level of resolution to be able to see, okay, we need to separate that out and deal with what the real problems are. Because space is what we're dealing with right here. We're analyzing counties. We're not even looking at the actual spatial element. What are the odds that, you know, the counties that are high in murder, rape, and robbery are right next to each other, right? Yeah, they're gonna be right next to each other.
It is.
Right, right. And that's something we don't typically deal with in this too well. Crime prevention does do it in spades, though. That's one of the reasons why they're starting to identify those laws of human behavior. There'll be more of those to come. Let's see, what else do I want to talk? We'll stop there for a second, ask you guys, what kind of questions do you have? That's a lot.
Two of them.
Thank you. I didn't hear him.
Me neither.
Are you also saying the data given is wrong or the data input's wrong? No, this is one, actually I had my son do it. One.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I start out easy, right? I'm teaching him as I'm teaching you guys. He's 50. And so it's like threshold, right? Start at the bottom. This is that one. The next one will be a little bit more difficult. Next one will be a little bit more difficult, that kind of thing. That's how I'll do some of the in-class stuff, and I'll have you doing this yourself within a couple classes. We'll play with this. We'll work on the writing sides of things. You can work on that by the time you're done with this class. What I want it to be is, okay, we got some results in hand. If you want to write those up, you can go do something with it. Right? That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. So this is my first time doing this in a class like this. So you got some options, some opportunities. I started with him on that because for him, it's attention. For you all, it's accuracy, right? I've given you a task, you know, laziness and do it. It's like, Yeah, that one was a struggle. I don't have to worry about that with you guys so much. It would be, more along the lines of, as you start building it, is it all connecting kind of thing? For him, it's every single level of analysis. So that's my pet project. He is experiment number one. He is not one bit. I also call my oldest daughter. I like her. No, I'm just kidding. So this is a start into that. You will never see numbers like that,
No.
ever, anywhere. I was actually surprised they were that high. I knew they were gonna be really high because what we're looking at is we're looking across 77 counties. What, as the numbers for rape go up, what's gonna happen to the numbers for burglary or larceny? They're gonna go up too, so that's gonna be perfect. Only when we go in there and I start pulling up those charts, or we did further analyses, I could show you, okay, as this number increases, here's what the other number does. You'll see that the error around it will increase because these things aren't growing at the same rates. It's just they go in kind of a similar direction. And so it's, in some sense, there's interpretation. In some sense, it is like music. We're looking at the spaces between things. And so it is something that we'll have to do. You'll have to get your hands on it. And we'll teach you how to do it. And once you've gotten this down, this skill set, you can apply to every other skill set you have for data set, whether it's your bills and your monthly bills. I do that. That's the only way I make it through, right? Whether it's your work, group project kind of things, like, okay, where are these things gonna work? How's this gonna work out? I can do it this way too. I mean, anything. It's the process where you take information and you get it to where you can do something with it. That's methods. You've had that. This is where we're gonna show you how to do it for this. You get that practicing, start applying it to everything. Cool? Cool. That will make you dangerous because now you're efficient. Now you're not moving at the speed of a person, you're moving at the speed of that thing. Right? I can do these calculations. It'll take me a long time. There's only 77 of them there. Only 77 counties there. And only dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variables. Right? Very quickly that becomes something you can't do. You could do it, just takes forever. I can do it in a few seconds. Now you can, right? Well, that reminds me, I can post up videos for this class when I do that. You'll be able to watch the video. You can literally just go back and click the same things and do the same thing. It's the same thing for ArcGIS. The only thing that's different is instead of it getting it this way, is it'll show you on a map. What I'm saying is you need both, right? Because, yeah, we want to identify that relationship here between variables, but we also want to pull in that spatial element. It's going to matter. That's not common in terms of research. And when you start looking at the research articles you're looking at, you'll find those that are spatial, you'll find those that are this. You don't see too many that are going to kill. You get both, guess what? You're now really dangerous already. I can take the same information and pop it into ArcGIS in there. ArcGIS will look almost exactly like this. I won't show it because it'll be just too much to show you. It'll look almost exactly like this, except for right here, I'll post a map of the state, right? I can do the same kinds of depictions, but rather than it giving me numbers, give me colors for the different counties. Red is hot, blue or green is cold, right? Now I can see it. I'm only seeing the counties. Step one. That's all we're doing in here, right? If you want to run with it, step two would be, okay, now that we've got that information, start getting in contact with those counties, get more information. How about instead of you giving me the county, give me X, Y. Right? Give me latitude and longitude. Now I'm not just dealing with county, I'm dealing with the actual location, right? I can put that anywhere, whether that's the county, whether that's street network, whether that's houses, neighborhoods. Now, whatever level you want to analyze is open. Whether you're talking about blocks, whether you're talking about cities, whether you're talking about counties, whether you're talking about states, you expand from there. Cool? You go wherever you want, do whatever you want. as long as you plan. It'll happen slowly over the course of this semester. We are moving slowly in some ways. In some ways, we're moving really, really fast because you'll never get exposed to that stuff. This kind of stuff, I got a little bit in my master's. I was like a couple of stats classes into actual, the doctoral stuff. So getting a flash forward to that if you want to. Really what it is I'm giving you tools to make you effective. You can use this anywhere. Any questions? Okay. Are you guys as tired as I am? Okay.
I was, but now I'm interested.
Yeah, that's the other thing with ideas is when you start playing, it's like a video game. You have to be very, very careful because you'll lose 10 hours. Quite literally, it is when you make that switch and you have that happen, come talk to me. Because that'll be a different skill set where it's like, okay, here's what you need to do. Right? Because that will be a big problem you run into later on. Time is my biggest enemy. Oh my goodness. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. So got the book stuff. Keep reading the book stuff. Ideas. We'll start there and then kick around a few, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And then we'll call it for a day and call it a day. I'll let you guys kind of kick that around your minds for a little while and think about it. In terms of ideas, the stuff that's easily accessible is good, but I don't always know what's easily accessible. And most people don't. It's one of those things. Pick a topics and we'll start exploring. It's like all this is exploration. We don't get on a leaky boat. That's sad. I don't like that. But okay. Know your fentanyl overdoses. Stick with that. You'll get, we'll start making progress now. Keep up. What kinds of things are you thinking? You mentioned you'd messed with data in professional sense. What kinds of stuff did you say again that had you doing?
We just had to like, the amount of like rapes, domestic assaults, and all that kind of stuff. The numbers for the month to the week to the year, all of that kind of stuff. I haven't done it in its whole like.
I was just curious because that'll give me an idea. It's like, those might be areas that kind of key up your interest, or it could be something's like, I did that, I don't want to touch it again.
Mhm.
Are they hiring someone? Huh? Are they hiring someone?
It's normally around like, holidays, winters and stuff like that, because when stuff gets bad, well, there's certain parts of it are like the domestic violence is really high in the summer, like rapes and stuff are high.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or vice versa, it switches.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. So what kinds of topics interest you in the criminal justice?
I mostly just focus on juveniles, like
Okay.
that's literally where I've stayed.
Okay. I know we have some data on stuff like that already.
Mhm.
I've touched a little bit of it. It's been a couple of years though. That's things you think about.
Immigration.
Immigration. Very, very important. But that's why it's hard is I don't know in terms of how much stuff's easily available there. But we'll play. Okay.
It's a really nice spread of different topics, right?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Okay. As we're doing this, oh,
A chat.
yeah, good. I hate that I can't hear it. I don't know if that's this room. I'm not finding quick. I'll meet with you later on this. Okay, that's fine. Basically what I'm talking about is, it's playing with data. It's picking ideas and then seeing what data is available for that already, seeing how much we can get it to align towards those topics, and then just building, right? Immigration.
I know, for the research methods for the
Mhm.
juveniles, it was really hard because I was working on like the recidivism rates and stuff. It was really hard to give numbers, information, so I kind of want to stay away from that
Well, if,
specifically.
maybe, I don't know.
But I still have all of the data and
Well, I
stuff.
would want you to use your own.
Yeah,
But what I want you to do is if we have data around, it's like that's the kind of thing you'd want to do. And that's what you-
well, yeah, I already have like the articles and like all the stuff where we went through with that. I still have a lot of them saved.
Okay,
And so, and then I'm just thinking like with the capstone.
yeah, overlap. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the thing I was gonna tell you. It's like, okay, because I can't remember. It's been a day or two since I looked at those. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't remember that right now. Yeah, that's what you should be working the overlap. Things you've already done, that, and here. So, yes, run with that. And what I'll do is I'll get you some stuff that's pretty easy, and I'll start showing you how to play with it. Immigration. Those of you online, what kinds of topics are you thinking? And I'll start. Keep that up. I'll put that back here so I can actually see it. Wish I could make it bigger though.
Lisa's the MVP of the online meeting.
She does get there. Here, hold on. 4 participants. Okay, so I need Bailey, Tristan, and Shalice. Tell me what kinds of things you're thinking about. You don't know, it's okay, but just kind of give me an idea for what kinds of, when you first started this degree, whether it's the master's or the undergrad, what kinds of things got you interested in this? You know, that there was something.
Mine was domestic violence and stuff within that.
That's another one, TV.
I also wanted to go to law school or that kind of stuff, but I ended up not doing that.
Law school's expensive.
It was expensive, and there's a lot of people who argue a lot already. I don't think
Yeah.
that makes it a whole better. Yes, domestic violence. Okay. So, in terms of how many different directions you could go. So we have the crime prevention element here. That one you'll build into it. This was a bit more direct because you have death involved. This one, there's a lot of issues. So one of those would be trying to figure out, ooh, more juveniles. Good, 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 good. The immigration issue would be one that, you know, what element of that would you want to deal with? Because there are so many different ways. I mean, how, you know, there are people who drug trafficking, that kind of thing, right? If it's this, you could also have this, and then you're dealing with, okay, that's gonna be street networks and things like that. That'll be your crime prevention element if you want to do it that way. It's like, what kind of aspect are we talking? Talking about crimes against immigrants, the victimization, the vulnerabilities associated there? Are we talking about drug trafficking, human trafficking, any number of things that you can tie directly into this? Right? What I would do is we're gonna sit and talk about that a little bit. Drugs, human trafficking, immigrants themselves, immigrants as, I don't know if that, would you say it was the say immigration. Immigration crimes against, or crimes that are associated with immigration. When you say immigration, I don't know when you said immigration, sorry.
Probably crimes against.
Yes, okay. Yes. Okay. That would be fun. So depending on what you want to do, probably what I would start with is, honestly, it's gonna be seeing what kinds of numbers you can find there to begin with, right? That's gonna be a bit more difficult. It wouldn't be a good choice. In terms of official numbers, like the first thing I start thinking about are like the detention centers and things like that, and conditions there. Not necessarily crime prevention, but you can get there. That's gonna take quite a bit of talking. We'll need to dig into that one. In terms of juveniles, it'd be like the, okay. Got that issue. We also have this issue, right? Housing immigrants, what kinds of conditions, how are they handling children? If you have multiple people coming across, what happens to those children in terms of other parents? Should they be left with the adults that they travel with? How do you establish that they're parents? That kind of stuff. So you have all those issues you want to touch into. And then how do you go about setting this up to where you can start showing it's like, okay, here are the numbers of people that go through, here are the numbers of people that have, maybe it's juveniles or that experience this, or here's their processing thing, here are the locations. And then as we start looking at that, is there a spatial relationship to crime? Maybe you want to go from that, maybe that's, we're gonna look at, instead of just this, say you've been doing that for a while, or you've been doing this for a while. We're gonna take a different stab at it. We're gonna look at something different. We'll say, this is one I want to start with. So, facilities associated with processing immigration. What effect does it have on crimes in an area? Like you can quite literally do that like they do with water wells. If it's juveniles, you could be looking at activity times, activity locations. There are so many different facets, so there really are. Or you can look at things within the system itself that feed into it. If that wouldn't necessarily be crime prevention, that'd be probably more. Those are more juvenile oriented, be into originally. So the crime prevention side would be more on some degree recidivism, some degree you're going to be dealing with opportunity and that kind of stuff. And that's one that you have some data on in terms of juveniles and that kind of stuff. I don't know the extent of it and what specific facet we'd want to tie into that, but we can do that. Domestic violence, well, you can start getting some of those rates. We'll dig and see what's available for that one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is direct, playing with the data directly. The next thing you'll be doing is, as you're developing this, stuff like this. Crime prevention control. I put that in. I haven't opened those yet. I'll put in here. Maybe I only put it in one. Got a couple of these.
Tristan says, I think that manslaughter could be interesting.
Okay, manslaughter. Okay, and it doesn't just have to be the crimes themselves. It can be relationships with other things. We'll start there. So we'll start that one. Manslaughter and those. I didn't put that in there. I put in. Because last time we were talking about UCR stuff a little bit. If you want to find information about the UCR, where do you look?
We looked at the OSBI.
OSBI is one place. That'd be state level. If you're going a little bit wider, you'd go to the FBI itself, right? There are ways to download that data for different areas. Which time we got? I won't show you that one just yet. We'll show you that one next time. The next thing I was going to start talking about is like part 1 and part 2 crimes and that kind of thing. Basically, what we have to realize is that, okay, these are some variables you can play with, just like these are some variables. When you start playing, you can start combining them and doing different things. Here, what you can start looking at here is the difference between your part 1s and parts 2s is they track them differently. You have to be aware of that because your numbers will change. Like for Part one or part two, that they only track after arrest. FBI UCR, part one. I don't know, the caps lock is on. I don't, give me this right here. This is what I want. Not that either. I want the actual printable one. So boom. This right here. This is the information that will tell you what they're actually tracking and how they do it. Right? UCR program collects part one offenses in order to measure the level and scope of crime occurring throughout the nation. That stuff. Part one offenses are. Okay. Get down to part two. For which only arrest data are collected. That. This is where some of that process stuff will come in as you're developing these things. Since that's only arrest, those numbers are gonna be much, much smaller, right? Part ones, they'll track the incidences. This is only arrests. So the numbers you get for simple assaults, forgeries, counterfeiting, that kind of stuff, get those numbers. Those are gonna be the small numbers. They're gonna be huge compared to everything that's up there in part one. The seriousness and the frequency of crimes are inversely related. Your low-level stuff's always gonna be a lot more common than your high-level stuff. And to some degree, as you're dealing with crimes, you need to figure out which one you wanna deal with. You wanna deal with the stuff that's all the time and common and less, how would I put that? Stuff that's more common? Or do you wanna deal with stuff that's less common, but more attention grabbing? It's like, and there's a trade-off there, and the big thing is like what's going on. Then, like, maybe I don't want to do analyses on these specific crimes. Maybe I want to combine them up. I'm going to deal with part one crime. That maybe I want to deal with another issue, and I want to see what effect crime has on it. If there is one, that's fear of crime stuff right there. I'm afraid. I'm trying to figure out what causes me to be afraid. I have this data set that is afraid. I'm trying to figure out what's causing it. Is it something? What's causing it? And is it something that's actually tied into crime? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? That was actually a big issue. I didn't want to come up with a bunch of numbers on stuff. Everyone's afraid of the areas where there's not much crime because I don't know, there's a lot of people around. Right? Then where the crime actually does occur is when there's nobody around, the serious stuff. Are you sensitized by this common stuff that's small? Or is it the big stuff that's not? And that's going to depend, are you afraid of walking out the parking lot at night? Or is it the UC Center where you're gonna have your purse or wallet stolen or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. As we're figuring those things out, the only way that we do that is by chunking it up into issues we can actually analyze. Once you run the stats on it, it will tell you, it's like, yes, this is a factor, and no, it isn't, and how much it is. Cool. Is that good for tonight? Too much? Not enough?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Right, yeah.
Okay. We'll start playing that next time. And so that's what I'm going to try to go, what we'll try to do with in these classrooms from here on out is we'll spend about an hour or so lecturing. We'll talk about stuff, we'll book stuff, articles and things like that. And we'll spend, I guess we spent probably about an hour doing this and developing. As we continue, eventually we'll probably get to a point where we plan with more data. I know we've got an ArcGIS center downstairs. I don't know how they regulate that at night. I'm pretty sure it's probably not being used right now. So we can go down and play with it. It's already late. I'm not gonna make you guys do that. We may get to where we're popping down there and I'll show you some spatial stuff too. I can show you here. It's just easier whenever you're dealing with a real computer rather than the desktop stuff because getting it into it and getting that's really hard. But once you start doing this, It's gonna go really quick, and you'll be surprised at how easy some of these are and how difficult. ArcGIS is one of the hard ones.
Yeah.
So,
There's just a lot of buttons.
yes, and so what you'll find as we start doing the SPSS stuff is it will run really, really smooth by comparison, and you can flight. And then we'll get you guys in flight too. With that, I'm tired and hungry. Cranky. It's definitely great. Let's have the rest of the night to ourselves. If you want to, hop onto that desktop.nsuk. See what you see out there. See if it's got those programs. It's SPSS and ArcGIS, because in here I did. One room over, whenever I accessed it 2 days ago, I did not. And I've accessed it in here before and they updated the system, so I don't know what's going on there. I still have to get in contact with IT services. So if one of you guys wants to get on there and play with that, see what you can find, that'd be cool. If not, next time. So, what I will do next class, we'll sit down, we'll talk about this, kind of iron out some subjects, and then I'll set the due dates for the first writing assignment. Cool? All right, we're getting back on the schedule. Those snow days didn't do us any favors, but we got this. I will see you all later.
Dr. Hurst,
Yeah, oh, sound does work. Yes, I like that. What's up?
is it loud? I'm sorry.
That's-
Can you repeat the website of how you got to all of
Yes,
that?
yes, so it's desktop.nsuk.edu. So it's whenever you get to that website, if I've still got this sharing, I'll show you what it looks like again. It's just like signing in to any of your university stuff. So desktop.nsuk.edu will bring you here. If it gives you this, you just go click reconnect. Yeah, reconnect. Okay, log out. I know what it was. I had it open enough. That's why I was having an issue. Okay, waiting to connect. And so it's a little slow. It's a little clunky. You log in just like you were logging in to your email or anything else, and it'll bring up the system. Since I already had it up, the product would have had already. Otherwise, it'll look. No, I don't want to say. No, I don't want to say. And so it'll look like this, and it operates just like a normal computer. It's just getting information on and off. It's hard. You have to use your email. Cool.
Cool. And is that the way you got the definitions as well? Like the
Well, you can get those just online. This one, what this is really useful for is this is the programs. You'll see right here under all apps. The two big ones, ArcGIS, because that's gonna be your spatial stuff. And then the other one's gonna be down here under I for IBM SPSS. That's the statistics package. We'll be using a little bit of both of those. I won't make anything do related to that kind of stuff. The writing stuff's where the points will be. It's just a really good skill set for you guys to get. And when you start getting this, what it will do is how you think about data will change. And all of a sudden, this thing goes from being something you click buttons with to, as I'm thinking, this is gonna speed up those processes. And so it's a lot of fun. Hopefully whenever you log in, it will give you both of those. I don't know because I've had mixed experiences. Stop share and we'll get out of that. And with that, any other questions?
No, I was just making sure I was watching what you were doing.
Yeah. And hopefully tomorrow I'll get up here earlier. I'm gonna be kind of tired tomorrow, so I'm not gonna make it in. But if I do, I'll be uploading all the videos for class because I'm like 2 weeks behind in that. What's up?
I hate the script. I really do. I think I'm gonna have to rewrite the whole thing.
Have fun.
Just cause I don't know. I feel like the focus is completely different.
It is.
So I feel like I'm gonna have to do a new theory section.
Yeah.
And then the opening's fine. The methods, I mean, obviously we're gonna change.
Mhm.
The conclusion's probably gonna be quite similar, but the middle bit, I'm like, it's not gonna be the same.
Mhm.
So I'm just preparing myself to do that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It won't
Yeah.
be that bad, and you'll be surprised at how much of the stuff will be basically the same, I might just
Yeah.
a few word changes.
Right.
We on schedule for Monday, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll meet at that point in time, and, what we'll do is, at that point in time, I'll start sending you some data.
I
Use that.
really like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I can see how this is different.
SPSS is a lot more friendly. The
Yeah.
RGS stuff is cool because you can actually see it,
Mhm.
like on the spatial side. But everyone else uses like SPSS or statistics programs like that, and that's like the law of land. But
Yeah,
we'll show you how to do that. And you'll have some tools. It'll be cool.
good, good.
But with that, I'm out of here.
Me too. I'm gonna go home and eat.
Look. All right.
Bye, Dr. Hirsch. I actually sent you an email as well.
Oh, okay. Cool. And if you guys need anything, just let me know. All right.
See you Monday.
See you Monday. All right, so that one is squared away. We need to lock out. And bye.